That's right, time has obviously washed away, pun intended, any lingering memory that Americans had of the word laundrette, and so they usually opt for the word laundromat. Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and occasionally those memos take the form of word differences, and even more occasionally, those word differences are slightly more obscure than the whole crisps versus chips saga. Indeed, it turns out there are literally hundreds of word variations between the two countries, and you might just have to spend some time immersed in both cultures, as I have, to discover them. Or, if you're not so inclined to do that, you do well to watch this video series to discover exactly why Britain and America are two nations divided by a common language. Let's take a look at 5 word differences that I didn't even know existed until I moved to the United States. For so many reasons, the 17-year-old version of myself would never have imagined that he'd one day utter the sentence immediately following this one. Shortly after moving to the US, an American friend of mine was diagnosed with a mysterious-sounding viral disease. The doctor says I have mono, she reported at the time. It's causing the lymph nodes in my neck to swell. She had a very deep voice, apparently. Now, aside from imagining just how bad this mono must have been, I couldn't help but wonder 2 things. Number 1, mono must have been extremely rare, I'd never heard of it, and 2, stereo must have been twice as bad. But as it turns out, mono is not only pretty common, but it's precisely what the British call glandular fever. So all of the fears that I had for my friend's health could have been significantly alleviated if somebody had simply told me, "Your friend is gonna be fine, she just kissed the wrong boy." Now, looking back, I must have discovered all of the health-related word differences very early on in my time in the United States, and it's no surprise because, I was in and out of hospital many times during that period. Don't ask. No, really, don't ask. I have an annoying habit of exaggerating things. But, despite my brushes with the medical room in those early days, nothing could quite prepare me for my mother-in-law's reaction to the question, "Do you have any plasters in the house?" "Yeah, all of the walls are plastered," she probably said with a deep voice once again, and a look of utter bewilderment. She must have thought that I had genuine concerns about the structural integrity of the house. I did, as it happens, but that's another story for another time. No, I explained. Plasters, to stop my arm from bleeding off. The penny dropped at that moment. Aha, what you're looking for is called a Band-Aid. So this is a fictitious version of my mother-in-law in which she has creepy eyes. Now, at this point, the linguistic divide could have been widened severely had I referenced the 1984 supergroup led by Bob Geldof, but I didn't. I just nodded. Of course, even as I tried to cauterize my severed arm, or, paper cut, my mother-in-law suggested that I run it under hot water before applying the Live Aid. Band-Aid. Good idea, I said. Where's the flannel? It was then correctly pointed out to me that the temperature outside was 90 degrees and that winter clothing was unnecessary. You see, in America, flannel is commonly used to make plaid shirts. Kurt Cobain wore a lot of them. It was the 90s. Anyway, to clear up the confusion, my mother-in-law added, "You'll probably want to dab the wound with a washcloth." She went British all of a sudden. It's a very confusing time. So it seems that when it comes to the British-American divide, any sort of cloth presents a kind of double-edged sword, although not literally, that wouldn't work. On the one hand, cloths remind us that household chores are a thing, and on the other, they highlight the true meaning of two nations divided by a common language. Now, responsible as I was for the aforementioned chores when I first moved to the United States, one of the perks of waiting on your visa, it didn't take me long to discover that Americans mostly don't use the term tea towel, and of course this didn't compute with my British ears. How on earth did American society thrive without tea towel, part of its collective vernacular? Actually, don't answer that. On this occasion, though there are exceptions, Americans usually opt for the sort of more literal variants like dish towel, kitchen towel, or, drying towel. Let me know in the comments which one you use, but in the meantime, while we're on the subject of cleanliness, let's put our final entry through the ringer. So it turns out that Americans also don't typically use the word laundrette, which perhaps accounts for why, upon uttering the word around Americans for the first time, it was largely agreed that I'd just invented a new word. Now, while I'm prone to doing this, see the words Bringlish and Grenliness, I'm fairly certain that I didn't coin the word laundrette, and that's because America did in 1947. That's right, time has obviously washed away. pun intended, any lingering memory that Americans had of the word laundrette, and so they usually opt for the word laundromat. Actually, it turns out that laundromat entered the language first, after the Westinghouse Electronic Company, now corporation, introduced the word as a proprietary name for a type of automatic washing machine. Ultimately, of course, the word is a blending, another laundry-based pun, stop it, Lawrence, of laundry and automat, which was a type of cafeteria and not a brutal dictator. Speaking of brutal dictators, I, Lawrence Brown, am going to sign off here and put my cat to work on the dishes. Hopefully this time he'll refrain from leaving bite marks in the kitchen towel. Tea towel. Thanks for watching. Where on earth? Oh, hello. Thank you for watching this latest episode of Lost in the Pond, and if you like what you see on this channel, why not consider becoming a patron of Lost in the Pond like these fine folks that you see here to the right. One of the perks of doing so is you get to join my Patreon-only live stream every Tuesday night, no matter how big or small your pledge. So if you want to support this channel and help make it grow larger than the sun, then go to patreon.com/lostinthepond. Now, if you like this video, there are two more things that you should do at this very moment. Firstly, share it with the entire world, and secondly, check out this related video. I highly recommend it, but please binge responsibly. And finally, if you've not had the chance to do so, you can subscribe to Lost in the Pond in a very satisfying way by punching my stupid little face. Until the next video, goodbye.